This is Raging with Ron and Riccardo, and I can tell you what, we are neither of us, Ron nor Riccardo, the one that looks like Diana Ross joining us today. Please welcome onto the podcast, Tangela Hamilton. G'day, Tangela. How you doing?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, our pleasure to have you on the show, man. I mean, you work in the entertainment business, you work in the radio business, you've done a lot of stuff, but I think that the thing that really pops to me is you've just written a book called How to Make a Kick-Ass Card Game, and that is based on a card game you invented called b.l.m. Do you want to talk us a bit through that?
Yes, Lyin. So I'm happy to talk about that, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about it. Well, so to make a long story short, April 4th, middle of the night. I'm a night owl. I'm what you call a insomnia. What is it? A creative insomniac. So most of my work is done about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because it just keeps rolling my brain. And so I was sitting up, having a glass of wine in here by myself. It's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, like 2 o'clock in the morning, I think. And I was just like, just bored out of my mind, and I thought about my friends and what we would be doing right about now. And I was like, you know what, when this COVID thing is over, we're gonna, have a good time. I'm gonna make, a good game or something like that. I forget how I came about it. I came about to it, but I think what I said was, I'm gonna make a, kick-ass game or kick-ass card game. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, bitch, you lying. You're not gonna, just having this conversation with myself. There's nobody else to talk to. So I'm talking to myself, and I'm like, bitch, you lying. You're not gonna do any of that, bitch in term of endearment. And so I kind of listened to that, and I kept hearing that. It kept resonating with me, like, bitch, you lying. Bitch, you lying. And I hear it. That's it. So I get, run over, get some paper, and I'm like, okay, let's draw it out. And so what I did is I started to think about experiences that I had gone through. A lot of that, most of that stuff that's in this card game, because it's raw, it's raunchy, it is straight up, it is not for church people.
Parental guidance sticker on there.
I had to explain that to somebody just this week. This is not for church people. I told you, I'm a church girl gone rogue. This is not it. This is me being authentically me, which is passion, what my passion is right now. And I wrote down a lot of things. I just started writing down situations that I never really got answers to, and some stuff that just happened in my life that I thought was just, pretty either crazy, crappy, or funny. One of the two, one of the three. And so I put those in question form. And, I said, okay, well, let me give, some scenarios or some multiple choice answers. I'm trying to be as outlandish as I can, but most of those answers are answers that I've seen or encountered or know someone. But what you can expect is that one of the answers has been my experience. And so I created the card game, partnered with some, different vendors to make it happen, put it out on Etsy. It became a bestseller on Etsy. It's still going strong. And from that point on, folks began to ask me, how did you do this? How did you even come up with this? A card game? Who does that? I'm like, me, I do that. I'm weird. So after, having so many people ask me about that, I'm like, the entrepreneur in me is like, they're asking, that's a need. I need to find a way to deliver. And so I just sat down and just started writing out the book. And I wrote the book just like how I would communicate it to someone in a conversation. So it's pretty down to earth, and there's some little tidbits about me. I feel like that I pour my personality into it as well. I just can only be me.
So that's cool, man. Yeah, fantastic. From that 2 o'clock in the morning, glass of wine in hand, bitch you Lyin light bulb goes off to getting the card game out. How long did that take?
The night I started, I had I guess the well, I won't say prototype, but I had the whole form of it done. I was by the daybreak. Uh, to get it from that paper to production took me about a month and a half. All I needed to do at that point, because I was able to design everything, and in my book, I take you through all of those steps that I went through, from color scheme, fonts, how many cards you should have, what your deck should look like, what your box should look like, even to the points of marketing and how to sell it. But yeah, I got it out relatively quickly, probably a lot quicker than most people would, but because I was so passionate about it, it consumed me. Every waking moment was this game. And I lost a lot of sleep during those few weeks. There were many nights where I stayed up from sun up to sun up, but I still really wasn't weary, because it was my passion. It was what I wanted. It's something I created, and I'm in a very elite league of a very few Black women who have done this. So I'm pretty happy about it. Like I said, it's not for the faint at heart. It is not for the Sunday school teacher. This is for girls who want to get drunk and have a good time.
Oh man, so you had 6 weeks of bitch you lying, and then what, 2 weeks of bitch you sleeping?
Oh, bitch got plenty of sleep. You better believe that. Bitch laid her ass down. That's what she did. When this launched, oh, I'm telling you, I didn't turn on the laptop. Closed. I was like, no, I can't. I gotta decompress from this. And so yeah, I got some rest, lots of rest. But with a mind like mine, there's always something. I mean, I literally, last week I just launched Lip Shiz and Boss Bomb. So Lip Shiz, I know I'm always doing something. Lip Shiz is a lip exfoliant, and it's all natural for ladies. And then I do love cigars. And so I'm like, if I'm going to smoke a cigar, I need to protect these lips. And so I created something called Boss Bomb. And it's a, very rich, all natural protectant that tastes really good. So I'm a person like me, there's always something. There's always something.
Yeah, cool. You're busy. You're a busy lady. How long was the card game out for before you decided you were going to write how to make a kick-ass card game?
I think the game was probably out, I want to say maybe 2 months.
Wow.
2 months. And I'm probably pushing it then. Maybe 2 months. And after having, I think the last, request that I received was through Etsy. A stranger just said, tell me who your vendors are so you can I can start out on my card game. I said, you know what, lady, hang tight. And so I finished up the book or whatever, and I reached out to her and I said, here, this is yours for free.
Wow, that's
nice.
Cool, man.
Just let me know when you get your card game launched so I can buy it.
Nice.
Yep.
So shifting gears just a little bit, we were talking earlier before we went live about some journeys in life. This may sound like a little bit of a diversion from kick-ass card games to real life, but they kind of go hand in hand, right? At least looking at your card game, because it's based on your real life.
It is.
But be that as it may, we were talking a little bit about people's journeys, frankly, and particularly your journey, and how the world kind of gets evolving and shaping in and around what we do. And we think oftentimes, I'll leave you with this, we think oftentimes it's all about us. I tend to look at it a little bit differently in that it's seldom about us, although it's hard to internalize that, right, and process it, because we're living our life most intimately. Everybody else thinks they may know us. They may think that they have some idea, but they don't. And then ultimately, I always kind of push the chair back and say that's maybe not necessarily about me, but maybe it's about everyone else and how it impacts them. So we were talking a bit about persons that have gone before us that have been stricken with illness or tragedy or all those things, and we all have to some degree, right?
Right.
So my thought is, what are you, we were talking a little bit about Dre. We were talking a little bit about Steve Jobs. We were talking about, I mean, that list goes on and on and on.
Sure.
Steve Jobs and Dre kind of seem to kind of go together a little bit with beats and such. And Jimmy just announced, a big deal with his song catalog. So you see all this success, and then you see tragedy hitting inside that camp's pretty it's pretty interesting.
Right.
And sad. So what are your thoughts about that life, that journey?
I could go so long on this, and I hope y'all got enough time. What this takes me back to was and it's funny, I had this shift that I thought about this just the other day. I remember how I tried for so many years to break into the music business because I'm a singer, and I do it very well. I just didn't have the right connections, and I remember, and I watched my journey over the last 30 some odd years, really trying hard for this, and then I can say here recently, I've been able to look over the entertainment platform, at least in that vein. And I had to think to myself, do I really want that? Because I feel that a person like me, I'm so giving and I'm such a nurturer. They'd eat me up. But I was so blinded by, the thought or the desire to want to be in that I didn't think about. I wasn't wise enough to think about what life could really be like being, in the entertainment business, and especially if I was blessed to be able to be, very successful in it. I think that folks who are, and in the entertainment business that have been successful, we see their lives and think that their lives are just so perfect, and that they have, everything, and that they're so happy and they don't have to worry about things. They have all this glitz and glamour. But then, being a wise adult now and living my own life and going through my own chaos, if I'm going through some of the hells that I've gone through in my life and not having near as much, success and fame and money as someone to the likes of Steve Jobs or Dr. Dre, I couldn't imagine, or I can't imagine what their daily lives have to be like. I know we can sit here, like I had, spoken, to, and I'm thinking about what we've heard about them in the media. And, the media is only going to be able to give so much. There's always other sides to the story concerning Dr. Dre. But I'm also thinking about the fact about this man being a billionaire, a Black man billionaire. First of all, we already know he didn't come from that kind of money. So there's this whole other, situation where you have to learn how to act and understand and and appreciate and conduct yourself when you have that, because that's a shift. I know what my life was like going from $30,000 a year to six figures. It changes things. It changes the people you're around. It changes your address. It changes how you eat. It changes a whole lot of things. Now imagine that and going into billions. I can only imagine what kind of people, what kind of different things are coming at him left and right, just vultures and just craziness. And then he's got this, very public divorce that's in play, and it's a wonder that you don't buckle under the pressure.
Yeah, and we often see lots of people in the public eye, let's stick with entertainment, right, that do buckle under the pressure. There's lots of suicide, there's lots of premature death, there's lots of demons that they marry along the way that with addictions and all kinds of stuff, depression, etc., that do come to play. I think my little simple journey, which isn't, nothing in comparison to some of the people that we're talking about. You're right. There is a whole different level of stress. There's a different level of expectations. There's a different complexity about day-to-day living with lawyers and accountants and, managing this. And then, you couple that with, at least, again, not to turn the limelight on myself, but frankly, I grew up really humble. And then you have a lot of people around you that have expectations, right? That they're going to get something based on your success and that you owe them something. And particularly when you get into the street community, right? Which, if you come from the streets and you come from, the projects or whatever you want to call it, you have a bunch of people around you that you came up with that are like,
Right.
hey, when you make it, we all make it. And
Right.
you're not always necessarily looking out for your best interest, because again, we tend to look out for our own best interests regardless, right? So
Right.
if that damages the leader and we get what we need, we may not even process it like that.
Right. I know one of the things that I've had to do here lately, I'll be honest. I'm very spiritual. I hear from the ancestors. I hear from spirit. I get these downloads. And I can tell you that at the beginning of December, a message came to me that said, it's time for you to purge.
Mm.
And here I go purging. And not only did I have to purge things, I had to purge people. And what I realized, what things that were coming to me were the things that I recall how I would do for so many other people. My father used to tell me when I was little, he said, your heart is going to get broken so many times. He said, you're just too giving. My daddy used to tell me that. And it has rang true. And so, but I've learned to toughen up a whole lot more now. But here in the month of December, this past December, that message was given to me that I've got to um, purge. I've got to get rid of things that no longer serve me. I've got to because there are people in my life that, they're seeing me climb and, do different things and get a little attention and this, that, and the other. And though I feel most people are genuine, I do know that there are some people that may not have, the best wishes for me. They'll tell me they do, but then they don't know I know about other conversations that you've had saying something totally different. Now, I don't confront you about it. I'm just gonna let you see me do better.
Yeah. And one
Yeah.
of the things that's interesting about what you said, though, and first of all, we got to clear this out before we go any further. Riccardo, you and I will be purged after this show.
Right. Yeah.
So, we've got limited time here. So, this will be, some purging going on after the show. And that's all right, Riccardo. We'll stick together, pal. But you know what? On a serious note, one of the things is, again, one of my biggest challenges, and even today, and I think it affects all of us, whether we realize it or not, is I have such a hard time. I've worked very hard on it, not passing judgment on other people because I don't know their journey. So oftentimes when we say things like, and I say it all the time too, but when we say things like, other people don't have your best interest in hand, that may or may not be the case. It may just be that they're so focused on their own little world, right? And the own things that they need. And they're so desperate to find those things. And by the way, enough is never enough if you are an achiever, right? Because you can continue to acquire and achieve and gather and, hoard, whatever you call those things that we do, right? Which I've been suspect on all of them, right? Of trying to pull things in and, I don't want to lose this and I don't want to lose that and I don't want to lose this. And we sometimes just forget that there are other people along for our journey because we're so inner focused. I like to at least think that's where people come from. Even if they don't, at least it keeps me ignorant enough that I can put one foot after the other and not be a straight up hater.
Yeah. I hear you. But I see both sides of it. Like I said, I know a lot of people and a lot of people know me. But my personal circle is super duper small. And I'm talking, I can count them on the hands. Those are people who know that I know when I go to if I step out of line, they know that they can come to me straight up and say, bitch, you're out of line. And I can't do anything but say, okay, what did I do? Because I respect, the relationship that we have. I can be honest and say that sometimes I feel like I have enablers around me. I notice it.
For sure.
But I seek out those who can give me that unsolicited advice, who can say, you know what, let me sit you down for a second and let me tell you, I don't think that this looks good for you. I don't think this is a good look for you, because I may not see that. So I think for me, I pray that I always, have discernment about people, about things, about situations, so that I can try to make the best decisions about where I go and try to make the best decisions about who I let into my life. So people always approach you with their representative. Nobody ever comes to you straight on, rarely straight on with, this is who I am. There's some level of representative that's trying to put their best foot forward. Okay, I need to know the bad side of you too.
Yeah.
So I can know if your bad side and my bad side are gonna jive. Eventually we get to that level. If we're close enough, I'm gonna know you through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give everyone, unless I have vibes otherwise, my full on trust until they break it. And once it's broken, it's done.
Well, that's the thing too. I think you talked about those people that are are latching on, if you like, for want of a better term, and those relationships need to be a two-way street. And that's what you talked about with the purge. There is a certain amount of self-checking that I think you have to do as well. I mean, I know that I do it. I mean, I've got a wide circle of friends, and I am every now and then I'm like, man, when was the last time I rang that person? And what did I ring them for? And make sure you're checking in, and it's not just because you need something each time. So
Right.
that's something that I find is useful for me in terms of self-checking as well. Is that something that you've had to do personally yourself as well?
Definitely. Because here's my problem. When I'm going through things, when things get tough in my life, I literally shut off and shut down. And it's the worst thing I can do, because now I'm spending time with myself going over and over and over in this problem. So that's something that I've been trying to work on. And what I try to do now is that, when I'm going through issues that seem too tough, I'm trying to make a concerted effort now to reach out to people that I know care, that I know have my best interest at heart, who's going to give me the best advice that they know to give me, and say, you know what, hey, I'm hurting here. I'm going through this situation. I've been crying for 3 days. I don't even understand why I'm crying. Or I'm so mad right now, I can go out there and just chunk all my furniture over the balcony. Whatever's going on in my life, I'm trying to get better about that, because anyone who does know me, they know when they don't hear from me, there's a problem. Because there's only one or two things happening. Either I am caught off into work very deeply, I'm grinding in the lab, I'm cooking up something, or I am in a bad situation emotionally. One of the two. So I do have those few people who will check in with me, and that's because they haven't heard from me. And usually that phone call goes something like, bitch, I haven't heard from you in 2 days, 3 days. What's going on with you? Well, I'm going through such and such. Didn't I tell you to call me when you're going through things? I know, but I don't want to bother you about things. I know you don't want to bother me, but that's what I'm here for. Those are the kind of friends that I have. They cuss me out and tell me that they love me, and I love it.
Now, you talked earlier about having a bit of a spiritual awakening recently, and it wasn't related to your traditional church upbringing. It was something different, and it came to you in a quite unusual way, and I guess you'd say quite a headline way when people hear the story. Because you tell us about how you first became aware of that sort of spirituality, and the thing that triggered it for you, that made you then go and dig and find out what this was.
Yes. So I grew up Pentecostal, Church of God in Christ. That's who we are. I grew up in that, love that, will never ever leave that. I can say that even growing up in that environment, and I was always told, you listen to what the preacher says, and whatever he says, it goes, and that's it. And here's the Bible and everything that's in it, that's it. You don't question it. I questioned it. I did so silently, but that was just something in me saying, okay, but that doesn't sound right. And you said that, okay, he shows us the rainbow as a promise to us that he'll never cover the earth in water and drown anybody again, but you're telling me at the end he's going to burn us up to death? It's not making any sense to me anymore. Okay, you're telling me that, oh gosh, there's so many different things that I was reading and learning. It just wasn't making any, it wasn't making a whole lot of sense to me. So, and this is over many, many years. There's just something that kept bringing just, I'm a dreamer of dreams. A lot of people don't know that. And I really don't try to put all this out there. But I've had some dreams in my life that, most people would probably be like, you might need to get checked out. But then these things come to pass. And but long story short, it was New Year's Eve last year. And me and my sweetheart were fighting, but now I realized that that was divine intervention. We were fighting on New Year's Eve, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to talk to you anyway. You just stay where you are. Don't even come over here. I don't want to even bring in the New Year with you. Screw you. Goodbye. Well, little did I know that was a setup. And so, literally at the stroke of midnight, I hear something say to me, I'm calling you out. It's time. And I'm like, what you talking about? Calling me out. Because, like I said, I've been seeking knowledge. And then all of a sudden, since I knew I wasn't going anywhere for the new year, and I'd seen all the Twilight Zone episodes over and over, because I watch it every year on the first, just like I did this year. I love Twilight Zone. Of course I would. I'm an Aquarius. And so I began to start reading, and things were drawing me back to, getting and connecting with my African ancestry. And what was in me was a couple of things. How did they get along? How did they progress in life? What was their spiritual makeup and their process before they were brought here to the US? Jamestown, which is a few hours away from me, Virginia, and sat down and told, you can't read. We forbid you to read. We forbid you to write. But I have this book that I'm going to read to you, and you're going to like it, and you're going to honor it, and you're going to go by whatever it says, and you're going to forget everything you knew. Or else we're going to maim, rape, kill, or whatever we're going to do to you. So it was under a threat. Of course, survival of the fittest. Some of them had to say, okay, it's either this or get killed or hung or whatever is going to happen, just tarred. But then there were a few of them who said, okay, I hear what he's saying, but not letting go what I know. And they would go off to the woods, and they would, worship in the way that they knew how, that was authentic to them, what has kept them all along. And so that's what I've been drawn to. And so that's African Yoruba. I did my DNA and makeup, where I'm like 43% Nigerian, which the Yoruba tribe comes clean out of that. So now it makes sense why I was called into that. Benin and Togo, Senegal, I've got all of that. Then there's a whole other side that has, Eastern Asia. That's where these eyes come from, and this beautiful face, round face. I see all of my influence there. And I have Russian. So hopefully, maybe I've got a rich oligarch over there somewhere that's going to put me down or give me some good vodka or something. So
it's the Viking blood, that is.
Huh?
It's the Viking blood. They all went through Russia as well.
And then, the last name is Hamilton, so we know that's Scottish. I'm made up of a whole lot of things, but I was really drawn to this. And what I can say is that I haven't left what's been taught to me, but what I'm doing now is I'm like, okay, y'all are giving me, I feel like that there's so much good to so many different religious works.
Now there was another thing too that drew you to this, and that was a feeling that you got around a certain high profile happening in the United States last year. And that it meant you couldn't sleep. It meant you had a lot of other things going on. It made you question things, and it made you do some digging. And you found out that you were related to somebody that was a prominent figure in the news last year.
Yeah. So, that gentleman that you're talking about is George Floyd, and he and we share great grandparents. And so, what start that piece off as far as my activism is when he died, when he was murdered, I couldn't, for whatever reason. Normally I watch the news constantly, hooked on the news, every television in my house on the news at any given moment, hooked on it, soap opera to me. But when this happened, everything within me was saying, don't look at it, don't watch it, turn away. And I'm like, okay, because I can't handle it. And the more that we started going into this situation, and I'm having one part of me saying, don't watch this video. And then I have another part of me that just can't seem to let it go. I kept being drawn to it. I kept dreaming about it. I kept seeing him. And I'm like, why in the hell is this man on me like this? I couldn't understand it. So then come about 5 days later, after he was murdered, I'm working Sirius XM, doing my thing here at home, COVID. And my phone goes off, and it's my cousin, who's our family historian, saying everybody needs to check in on the family Facebook page, because that's how we communicate everything to each other. So my phone's going off, and everybody's hitting me up at this point. And so I go into the family Facebook page, and that's where I get the message that George Floyd is a blood cousin. Even his middle name is the same name as my great uncle. We never knew him. And I lost it. I completely lost it, because now I understand why I couldn't let it go. Now I understand why Spirit wouldn't allow me to see that videotape of him dying. They knew I wouldn't have been able to handle it, because that's my blood. Even now, I rarely turn on the TV because I still can't handle hearing his name on television, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I'm still coping with this. I'm still coping. So when this happened, I made up in my mind, it changed the complete trajectory of my life. And I said that I would live the rest of my days fighting for the injustice of all people that are mistreated, that are discriminated against. But I will have a huge focus on Black people, because we've gone through this all our lives. And what you saw happen to him has been happening to us forever. It's just now it's visible because we're in this technological age. So it's changed my life.
And
I think that one of the things that's interesting is, I think everyone has the ability to be divinely inspired, and everybody has the ability to see and be connected, but you have to be open to it. And obviously you're open to it. And so you're getting, messages and inspiration and communication that you're actually paying attention to. Some of us just ignore it and go on with our day, or cover it up with something else, whatever that is. But this is changing the way that you behave as a human being, because you're listening to this. There are angels among us, right?
Oh, yeah.
They talk to us. We just sometimes don't listen. That small, still voice inside of us, we ignore it right before we hit the pole.
Right, but they will send those synchronicities. You start seeing those numbers, those 555s, 444s, 111s, and all that start popping up. And every time I see it, I stop at that moment. I'm trying to listen. And I immediately say, "Thank you, Spirit. What is the message?" Because it happens to me all day, every day, all day. I get it every day. 111, 222, 333, 444, 555. I'm getting it all day. I got my new license plates for Maryland. I got 444 across it. I'm like, y'all just don't stop. My license plate, you just don't stop. Yeah, they find ways to make sure that we're connected. And I'll light my candle in a minute and give a moment and say, Archangel Michael, thank you. Gabriel, I call them out by name.
Nice.
That I mean, I don't want to use it flippantly, but for want of a better term, that spiritual awakening, if you like, or that a different door opening for you. How do you reconcile that with that Pentecostal upbringing?
Well, I'm gonna write a book about it.
Okay, it's another book coming.
There's definitely another book coming, because I feel like that there has to be an awakening there. And I'll tell you this: one of the first things that I was concerned about was, I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose my friends, because I've always, even as a child, I've always been, awed in awe of the heavenly bodies, the constellations, the stars, the zodiac. It's just so vast and it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And we'd be foolish to think that those heavenly bodies don't affect us. Let's talk it out. Let's just chop it up for a sec. The tides in the water. Well, we know that the moon affects that. Hell, the word lunatic. My mom used to work in a place where there were mentally challenged people. They used to document whenever the full moon was coming up, because every full moon people was kind of act a little different, a little harder to handle. Well, if the moon will affect the tides in the ocean, which is water, and we are made up of what, 75-80% water. We're still water. So what make you think it wouldn't affect us? But see, in the religion that I was raised up in, they say, well, you don't look to the stars or try to use the stars or heavenly bodies to try to figure things out. That's sorcery, that's witchcraft, this, that, and the third. But then you have Ezekiel in the Bible. When we talk about, he had the dream about Ezekiel's wheel and all that. And when the Bible also says, the signs and wonders comes from the heavens and the stars, and there's too much contradiction. But see, then this is where I have to go with that. And this is what I need people to understand. The Bible is beautiful. I think there are great stories in it. I think that it is a helpful compass. But we have to understand something. Now, where I come from, they preach that the Bible is the infallible word of God. Okay, I hear you. But there were fallible hands that put together this book. You mean to tell me everybody was on point? I beg to differ. Human nature is going to play out somewhere. I'm not that stupid, and I'm not that gullible. These are the things that I was thinking about as I was coming up in church. These things. And so what I want to make sure that I also highlight, because I'm moved to say this. I know that our ancestors, before they were brought into Christianity, They relied on what God gave them to bring things into their life, to manifest things in their life. Nature. The, believe the Bible even says that there's nothing new under the sun. They use these things that God created, and it even says it in the Bible. God gave every star its name. He knows that the stars have names. If they weren't important, why name them? So I feel as though one of the things that I'm keep getting into me is that the reason that in these books and particularly in our Bible where they say, no, don't look to that option, don't look to that option. I believe that there was some level of population control. I believe there was somebody saying, you know what? They might be onto something, but we don't need them to be onto something. We need to be on this path with us. So we're going to demonize everything else that they're doing. That's not fair. Because what I do know is after I've had this awakening, my life has changed for the absolute better. And I've experienced more promising and beautiful things in my life now. I call myself the now. Because I literally, if there's something I need to move in my life, I can get in front of my little altar and I can sit there and put my intentions out and say, you know what? I believe this is going to come through. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in positivity. I believe in having positive vibes to bring in positive things. And these are things that I really wasn't taught. But this has changed everything about me.
You know what though? I think a couple of things you're touching on, because I've been on a journey we all have for forever in seeking the truth, right?
Yeah.
Is guilt and fear are two incredibly destructive emotions.
You better
And
talk about it, Ron.
maybe, not suggesting, but maybe eliminating some of that in your journey is why you're seeing some of the blessings and some of the awakening, as you call it, because those two things are maybe not necessarily intended to be taught by organized religion, but they are cornerstones of organized religion, depending on where you're worshiping, right? Of like, be guilty, be fearful. We have a wrathful, vengeful God.
Yeah, that's
The God I serve is a God of love.
Right.
Now that's the God I serve.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong, and I don't intend to be an ordained minister, but what I will tell you is those two emotions are extraordinarily destructive. And there is nothing that I've ever read inside or outside the Bible that says positive thinking and all those things are contradictory to what's inside of it. Right. More importantly, one of the four table legs of the Bible, period, is faith. Right. And if you take that word faith, not necessarily as a religious word, but as a word in its true meaning, that's believing in things that we can't see, touch, feel, or use one of our senses to identify. And that self-positive promotion, whether it's like saying, hey, I strive to be an entertainer, I want to be a singer. Well, you have to have faith, and you have to believe beyond the shadow of a doubt that that's what you're going to be. And then you have to assume that role, and you have to make the sacrifices, most of which is time, right, to go ahead and accomplish that goal. Most people lose their journey on actually achieving their goal because they're not willing to sacrifice the time. Because trust me, that is, from my personal experience and everyone I know that's ever had any degree of success in business or otherwise, time is the one thing that you have to give up. And that may be time with your friends, that may be time with your family, that may be time with your loved ones, that may be time with yourself, that may be time with Riccardo, whatever that is, right? You have to sacrifice that and focus in on your goal, because it takes your energy, faith, believing, and sacrifice to get there. And those are all things that are inside that book. It's just that we tend to let somebody else tell us what the book says instead of reading it ourselves
and knowing it for yourself.
Practical, making it practical or commonsensical. It was also written a long time ago, and people go, oh, well, that's literal for today. I personally don't necessarily think that's true. I think that there's lots of great stuff inside there that we need to apply to our lives today. And
Agreed.
I'll leave you with this, and then I'll get off my soapbox about it. But this is one of the things that I think is really critical. The covenant that I believe in inside the Bible, because, you know, it's apparent that I obviously am a believer, but inside the Bible, the one covenant replaced all the other covenants, because it's a book of covenant, it's a book of law, right? Is to love one another.
That's it.
Simple as that. That was the one message that was really rang true. And they, you know, they actually, you know, regardless of your belief, they crucified the messenger.
Right. They crucified the messenger, but
that was the only message he had.
But see, and then but here's the other piece to that for me. And I love everything that you said, because you were dead on. You know, I'm while you were talking, I'm thinking about Bible verses, because like I said, I was as a kid in church all the time, so I'm a Bible thumper. So all these scriptures are coming to me while you're talking, and one that pops into my head, well, one of them that popped in my head was, "As a man thinketh, so is he." So we have all of these things that are being said in the Bible, but so much fire and brimstone was taught to us, and with so much fear. I'm telling you, even now, there's sometimes, you know, I think to myself, you know, am I okay? But I'm here to tell you, as sure as you hear me talking, I heard the voices of the ancestors and the Orishas say to me, they said, "How dare you be ashamed of us? How dare you? We've proven ourselves to you. We've proven to you that you're on the right track." And it's after I heard that, and I said, "You know what, Lord, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Angels, I'm sorry. Mother Earth, I'm sorry. Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine, I apologize to all of them." I said, "You're absolutely right," because I'm living proof. I'm living it every single day. The other thing that I was going to mention that I struggle with is that you mentioned how they crucified the messenger. Well, see, the other thing for me is for it was the Bible that was used to justify slavery.
Mm.
So how can you be so aligned with something that someone used to put you in bondage, when there are clearly other texts that were it's documented, that were left out, that speaks empowerment to you, but what was designed and what was left in the book spoke, you know, bond maiden, you know, servant, be good to your master, this, that, and the other. And then at the end of all of this, that's when you get your reward. I just don't believe that.
No, I'm big on that too. I think I was actually just looking it up while you guys were talking. It is, "Slaves, be obedient to your human masters with fear and trembling."
Yep, that's it. That's the word.
You know, and I struggle with that. And then you look back, you know, we don't have to go all the way back to the original Hebrew/Latin Bible that was done that you know, what, 100 years or so after Christ. But even if you look at the King James Bible, I mean, they left 14 books out of that Bible, and King James divvied it up amongst a bunch of religious scholars and said, "Decide what needs to be in here."
That's
and
right.
So
That's
you know, so it's like, well, whose best interest is it what they leave in and what they leave out?
So what about this other piece of it, that a lot of the stuff that was written in the Bible are written on the walls of Egypt, Kemet, back in ancient Kemet. So who's telling who?
You need to go get some rubs of that, put that in.
Learn it all. All I know is that I have to be true to my heart now, and I can't be true to what somebody forces me to do anymore. And yes, did that come at the risk of losing, you know, family and friends? Because the beautiful thing that happened last week, because I really didn't talk to my mom about it. She see what I post on social media. She hears some of the things I say, and she really didn't say anything. But finally, she asked me. She said, "When you say spirit, are you talking about God?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Of course, Mom." I said, "Mom, but I'm grateful that you asked me this, because I was concerned about how you were feeling." And as we began to talk, I come to find out that she was kind of lenient to some of the things that I, believe in this, that, and the third. Now, my mom is hardcore, church girl, but at least I can talk to her about it and she understands my journey. At the end of the day, I have to wake up and face myself in the mirror. Nobody pays my bills. I got to lay down and die for myself one of these days. So I'm going to be authentically me, and whatever it is that causes me to be a better person, so be it.
Authentically me, that sounds like the name of a book.
Don't start that shit, Riccardo, because I've got 21 books now, please. Oh, God.
The other one I had come to me was The Lost Gospels, according to Tangela
Oh,
Hamilton.
damn.
Write it down.
Pay royalties for that? The Lost?
Definitely pay royalties, and I get 50% of whatever he suggests.
I got it. It's documented. I'll put it down because I'm going to take that.
Tangi, you talk about books. I mean, that's obviously a passion of yours as well. Everything we've been talking about is a passion of yours. Did you say 21 that you've got in the pipeline?
21 now with the Lost Gospels.
The Lost Gospels of Tangi Hamilton. I want to read that one.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, honey. But yeah, I sat up one day and I had some sage burning. And I think Jupiter had probably already connected with Saturn. And all these things just started coming to my head. I am an Aquarium, by the way. And so I just started writing. And next thing you know, I've got 20 books written down, 20 book titles, good ones. So I'm like, okay. I said, so is this it? Is this what I'm doing now? I'm a writer, which writing comes easy to me. It always has. Even in school, here in college, I'm a grad student now. Oh, you write a paper? Piece of cake. Give me subject matter. Give me a little bit to read about it. I'll have your paper in a couple of days. So I guess this is the journey that I'm on now. And I think for me, one of the things that I was also doing, because there's an old saying, and I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's Jim Crow days. But one of the sayings was that if you, the best way to keep something from a Black man is to put it in a book. And that goes back and aligns with, we were told and programmed that we should not and cannot learn to read or write. You would be surprised how even to this day, we as Black folks still are under that, I call it a curse, generational curse. We don't pick up and read as much as we should. Now we've gotten better, but we need to do more. And the thing of it is that we can progress as a people when you learn your history, when you learn different things. If you want to know how someone's, doing well in life, go read Steve Jobs' book. Go see, read so-and-so's book. Read what they're doing so that you can learn. That's what I did. And so what I started to do, and I got to get back into it, just time has, taken away with all these things going on. But I would have a Sunday morning or Saturday morning reading going live on Facebook. And I would pick up an old book or a book that I feel like, it's going to give some knowledge. I'd go live and I just started reading to people. Because I figured that they may not pick up a book, but they'll see me talk about it. Okay, well then you watch me read this book to you. So I'm gonna get back into doing my Saturday morning readings. It's they seem to enjoy that. So yeah, looks like this writing thing is where I'm headed, and I'm okay with it. I'm just wherever I'm led, to go. That's what I'll do.
Make sure you do audiobook versions of them all as well, because nowadays it's even more easy for people to get that way with their commuting or with whatever they're doing. They're on the treadmill, they can listen to it, and taking it back to that spiritual thing that you talked about as well. So many of those ancient cultures, all of that history that you talked about, those people should know, was all oral. It was always passed down one generation to the next generation, the next generation.
Yep, absolutely right. And my thing is they used to say tarot card readers are evil. No, they're not. They're pretty damn accurate. They've been reading my life up and down this week. And so I believe God will allow you to use whatever he gives you. If it's rocks, if there's a message he has for you, he will put it through those rocks. I never discount anybody's gift. So yeah, I believe that the blinders are off, are steadily coming off my eyes. Kind of like, on Paul's road to Damascus, and he was covered with, eyes covered with scales forever long, and then finally they fall off. That's what I feel like is happening to me now, and I love my life. I'm happy for the first time in my entire life. I don't have nearly the things that I want to have. I have what I need, but I'm happy and I have peace, and that's better than anything else you could ever give me. Money can't buy what I feel right now.
I was gonna dub you the scribe of Maryland, but maybe it's just the voice of Maryland. What do you think?
Man, you're killing me. Oh my God, the scribe of Maryland. You're gonna get all my little money, right?
Yeah. Just cut me in for 5% here and there.
I got you.
Hey, Tangie, it's been great talking to you, man. It's been a real blast, and you're really engaging, and you have a really lot of cool things to say, and you're really open, and I've really enjoyed our chat today, and I've even enjoyed Ron's chat. It's been great.
I'm telling you, Ron's giving me
That's the
all
first
the
time
good.
for everything.
You got to do this again. I love this. I love, iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron, man, and we'll do it again when the next book comes out.
Okay. All right. That's a date. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Love and light.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking your time to be here with us. Appreciate it more than you know.
It's a pleasure. Thanks. Y'all have a good night.
All right.
Yeah, you too. Tangela Hamilton there with us, the author of How to Make a Kick-Ass Card Game and the inventor of the card game Bitch You Lyin, amongst a whole bunch of other things.
You're so nutty. Bye.